Okay, thank you very much. So I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss a little bit more about these trends and how this, let's say, part of open data can really help shape the digital part of the public services. So my name is Charalampos Vassiliou, or Haris for short. I have an IT background with an AI focus from Oxford. I have been mainly involved in research projects over the last nearly 20 years. But quite recently, I have also been appointed in the ministry, in the Hellenic Ministry of Digital Governance, in the office of the ministry, Mr. Kyriakos, overlooking at the digital transformation strategy in Greece for the next few years. So in that context, with that role, I am presenting today a few issues related to emerging trends of GovTech, civic technologies, and how also open data can be utilized in redesigning and delivering public services. So it is very important to start looking at the way that we start rethinking about how to build digital public services. And of course, the phenomena of the pandemic, as most of you already know, has really affected the way that we think about redesigning these processes. And of course, it has completely changed many aspects, the way we design, the way we deliver, and obviously the way we get feedback. So when talking about digital transformation now, as you can see in my presentation and overall in every digital transformation strategy in most of the European countries, we now see that the focus has shifted completely towards the citizen. So we are putting the citizen at the center quite efficiently and quite strongly, I might say. Trying to get him involved in the process as much as possible. So the reason behind this is basically to try and provide services which are focused on the citizen needs and try to do that as much as openly, transparent, and responsibly as possible. So it is a general focus now that we have, trying to follow a few key steps. Number one is obviously listening to the citizen. So we're starting from the basic need, what the citizen needs. And of course, there are nowadays many ways of getting the needs from the citizen, getting information about how the citizen wants to interact with the government, what type of services they need. And obviously, we have seen this quite strongly, again, as I said, in the pandemic. We had to very quickly adapt in the new lockdown, in the new curfew style, and start providing immediately some core services that the citizens needed. In order to do that, again, a very important step of the process is to design citizen-friendly government interfaces. So we need to put into advanced UIX processes and methods in order to deliver interfaces on government services which are more efficient for the citizens to use. And we're talking about a big range of citizens in terms of know-how, of capabilities, and so forth. So you need to design interfaces for these services which are globally accepted. Number three, quite importantly, is to ensure the leadership and determination within the government in terms of designing, implementing, and delivering these services. And to do so, we're also looking at new methods and tools in terms of introducing, for instance, the European methodology of PM Square into the government, at least in Greece, for managing all the projects at a horizontal level. Excuse me. So the idea here is to have a similar methodology, similar methodological approach in order to deliver, design, and implement this type of services. Another aspect is connecting the different government agencies in order to determine to establish data interoperability among the services. If you truly want to consider the government as a one-stop shop or develop these services, you definitely need to have some type of interconnectivity and provide data interoperability using similar standards and tools. Finally, we have two more steps. One is to ensure the reutilization and reuse of public data, which is a core element for minimizing time to design and develop new services in the future. And finally, one of the aspects that I am particularly keen, and I think it's quite a horizontal global aspect in most of these methodologies and processes, is developing digital skills, not only for the citizens, in order to be able to utilize these new services as much as possible, but also internally in the public administration in terms of understanding how to build better services and to be side by side on new technologies. And this is an aspect that we're strongly looking through various axes here in Greece as well. So what is the main challenge? We want to see about solving problems that have currently been solved in isolation by different governments, different agencies. So that seems to be a fragmentation that we have across different technological platforms, different processes, and in general, there's a fragmentation in the user experience. We used to have different agencies in the past developing different solutions, and to be honest, different governmental agencies didn't know what one was doing, and we needed to make a harmonized approach towards this. And this obviously gets us to the fact that we have different approach and different solutions using some specific vendor software and prohibiting obviously innovation. So going back to the fact of putting the citizen into the center of the digital transformation, particularly for public services, what we wanted to do is basically three things which we consider to be for us the basic drivers. We have the part of basically co-designing these digital services with the user, try to put the user into the driving seat as much as possible in order to help us co-design these services beforehand. The other aspect is the co-production. And in that sense, we are looking mostly on the feedback loops. So we want to focus here on how the citizens influence the outputs that the public agencies produce, how they affect the objectives, okay, and how the citizens perceive the services provided. And last but not least, it's the fact that open government data are able to drive this co-creation of public services. And this is a fact that we need to have also a strategy for open government data utilization. So here is what we consider as these three emerging trends, or basically using these technologies into building public services. The idea with this presentation, obviously today, is not to go into in-depth into these technologies. Most of you probably have heard or already utilizing some of them, but to give a brief overview, to scrape a little bit the iceberg in terms of how this can be used, to familiarize people with this, and how we can see potential combinations. So how we can help these governments become more open, more connected, and more consolidated. These are the three key aspects. In terms of being more consolidated, we need to have less fragmentation and be more efficient across the different platforms, the peoples and the processes that we have within the governmental level. We want obviously to be more connected. We want to have a connection and engagement of the citizen to receive more feedback, and also have this connection established among governments and different jurisdictions as well. And finally, be more open in terms of data sets of open source technologies. That way we can build a better trust, and we can evolve towards innovation by putting the co-creation element for the public services, for the citizen, as well as the industry, as well as SMEs. So we're not looking at co-creation. We don't consider, let's say, the citizen just a citizen that uses these services, but also industry, SMEs are using or developing applications for the public government. So these are the three elements that we're looking today, and the fact that we need to focus on that and establish more infrastructures, more processes related to these elements. So number one is, as I said, GovTech, which is about how to use this technology to optimize the governments internally, to optimize the operations, to test new technologies, and become more efficient and more consolidating across the governmental domain. Number two is the CivicTech part, which is about how to put the citizen, the industry, SMEs within the loop at the early stages of co-creation and basically, co-design, and then co-creation of services and delivery. And then finally, open data, how to develop an open data strategy to reuse and redistribute this data as much as possible, and create data sets that will be able to be utilized in the future, not only within the governments, but also from external sources, such as SMEs that are developing governmental services and so on. So looking first of all on the GovTech part, we see this GovTech aspect as being the forefront of the development of the evolution, let's say, of providing public services. So we had in the beginning analog government type of approaches. We had closed operations with mostly internal focus in working in silos, developing mostly analog procedures, and we mostly considered the government as basically a provider. This part obviously led to a new need, which was the e-government part. There we had a more user-centered, let's say, approach, but mostly at the supply-driven part. We had as well as one-way communications and service delivery. There was not a bilateral part in the pipeline. We had ICT-enabled procedures, again, in an analog part, mostly not in a design, in an analog section in the design part, and start improving on transparency. And again, the government was the main provider. Now, moving on from that into the new era, we have a two-section, let's say, establishment. We have the digital government, which is the procedures that are based on mostly digital aspects by design. We have now the user as a driver for the first part, looking how the user can drive the development of public services. And now we have the government operating mostly in the aspect of utilizing these services, providing services as a platform. For the first time, we have introduced the GAAP model for the first time. We have also, again, open by default on the aspect of co-creation for these public services. And again, another important element is data-driven. And now the administration is starting to be more proactive, leading to today's idea of the GovTech, which is developing citizen-centric public services that are mostly universal accessible. And now we have a more integration approach on the whole of government attitude, and trying to provide more simple, efficient, and transparent government systems based on the process that I also initially presented. Now, on the GovTech part, we have these main focus areas, which is to support the government systems, to enhance public service delivery, to mainstream citizen engagement, and then to have foster of GovTech enablers, such as developing more on the digital skills and other elements. In terms of Greece, we have recently developed the Digital Transformation Bible, or book as we call it, which is focusing on this new approach on designing and developing public services, and a strategy that will lead us towards 2025. The Bible, the book, now offers a clear vision on specific goals and priorities. It introduces a new project management attitude, going back to the leadership that I mentioned earlier, a financing and implementation model. We have indicated key intervention pillars and key enablers for the implementation of this strategy. And we have defined guidelines which are common to all the projects and describe in detail around more than 400 specific projects at the horizontal and vertical level in different areas of the economy in Greece. And that is focusing on 7 particular goals which are mentioned here. So the first one, number 1 priority, is to serve the needs of the citizen, going back to the citizen-centric model, to promote the development of digital skills, which is a horizontal aspect that we believe strongly in Greece in the new strategy, and also promoted by the European Commission quite strongly, to foster and enhance digital innovation through the building of new tools, and this is where I want to focus more, and to help Greek businesses become digitally competent and digitally viable. Also produce a better value through the utilization of public data to enable the citizens to work quickly, reliably, and safely, and to integrate modern technologies in all the different sectors of the Greek economy. So as you can see here, we have tried in these 7 goals to cover most of the aspects that all of the aspects actually that I mentioned earlier on the new, let's say, form of building digital services.
Κύριε Βασιλείου,
so user...
10 λεπτά.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. So the citizen is still at the center in terms of digital, of designing the services, of having a proactive government, of providing the government as a platform now, on having a user-centered design, on open approach by default, and of course, data utilization. We focused on 6 strategic pillars, and digital innovation and technology utilization, it's definitely 2 core of them. And this leads to the fact that we considered one of these projects to be an important one on developing or establishing a concrete GovTech lab here in Greece, fostered and operated by GRNet, which will focus on the utilization of different technologies and also focus on elements related to aspects of the digital innovation hub that we are also in terms of we are also in the process of developing. I will not focus so much on digital investments. So now we look into the part of the CivicTech for the general public good. So we have the CivicTech part, which for me, it is considered to be a module of the GovTech lab. So we need to have CivicTech embedded into the process in order to foster a better user-centered design and delivery. So we need to have a relationship that is built between the people and the government. And as you can see, we have this relationship built into different levels. We have software that we need to have in place for CivicTech in terms of communicating, in decision-making, service delivery, and in some cases, political process. Some are more mature, some software and some solutions are more mature than others. And through that, we establish a value through CivicTech, be more transparent, the government is more accountable, there's better participation and citizen engagement. And we can see this in different aspects of CivicTech, such as collaborative consumption, government data, through social networks, crowdfunding, and so on. In Greece, for the first time, we established a more concrete example of CivicTech into the digital transformation book that I mentioned before. This is a website that's already live. the digital transformation book is a strategy that we wanted to be evolved every year. So for that reason, we have put the citizen at the center in order to help us actively provide feedback on the on building communities about digital transformation, on giving us their ideas, sharing their ideas with us, and thus contributing into the reassessment of the transformation strategy every year until the year 2025. So we put the citizen at the center. We frequently look at the comments they provide, trying to put them, test them into the GovTech lab, and design, deliver, implement, and deliver. And of course, the OpenGovGR portal that's already established for quite some time help us on public deliberation. Another way of putting out there legislations, services, new ideas, and having the citizen comment on that. So finally, we look at the open data. We want to have open government data, which is basically referred to information collected, produced or paid by the public bodies, the public sector information, and is utilized primarily for three reasons. We want to have better access to public services. We want to be more efficient in terms of the service delivery chain, and then finally be more informed with respect to policy development. And we can see here the different direct beneficiaries from these different aspects, and how we have the different types of data that can be utilized for this aspect. Which are the benefits? Obviously, better performance in terms of improving efficiency of public services and improving the quality of them. We are, in fact, we have benefits for the economy itself by access to different information, content, and knowledge, thus developing innovative services or creating, for that matter, new business model. And finally, improve social welfare by putting again the user at the front. We have enhanced participation, and that way we can improve transparency and accountability of the government towards the citizen. Obviously, a great example for that is the data europa.eu, which is the official portal for European data, provides different catalogs in different countries with more than 1 million data sets for different parts of the economy, such as health, transport, and so on. This is another aspect that we want to focus on by developing projects for the Digital Euro program, which offers also quite a strong part on open data, on open technologies, on open architectures, trying to utilize these open source aspects into developing new solutions and utilizing obviously existing data. A great example, as you probably know, is the Open Government Partnerships, which is currently in different countries in the world, around 78. Trying to promote all of the above that I mentioned is a good starting point and a best practice part. So, in conclusion, we want to see that we need these technologies work hand in hand. We need to establish the best balance, the best weight between them. Some are more mature than others, and we need to put the user at the center in all the parts of the public service delivery, and do that in the most open, transparent way in order to achieve a better accountability and thus way better performance from the part of the government. So thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to be here and given the opportunity to speak about this topic. And I'm open to any potential questions that you might have.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ για την ενδιαφέρουσα ομιλία. Υπάρχει μια ερώτηση στο chat, η οποία λέει, talking about open data, what are the difficulties of getting public sector organizations sharing the data they create? Also, there are any guidelines of sharing data, so similar data sets have the same similar format and structures. Any examples?
Well, thank you for this question. This is a very interesting question. Of course, the part about obviously there are guidelines on sharing the data and structuring the data, and we can see that also at the European level, at least here in Europe. But the whole part about getting the public sector to organize the sharing of this data is, as you mentioned, organization, basically management of the different elements of the different agencies that produce data and how this can be utilized. So in the national strategy for Greece, as I mentioned before, the digital transformation strategy, we have a part talking about how to focus on this strategy on reutilizing this data. And very good examples are, of course, the data used for health records, for having the sharing of health records internally in governments, as well as in different countries in Europe, which is another core topic that we're looking into for developing the national health record data profile and being able to share it in an interoperable way with other countries. And for that matter, there are a few projects that we are engaged. And this is quite an interesting and let's say interesting example on how to structure and reuse this data.